Hello, and welcome to Knut Arranges on Fridays. I am back, and I have got a new song that I want to arrange. Well, I mean, it's not new, but it's a different song from last week. Okay, so I actually got an email from a Norwegian guy who sings in a few different choirs, who requested that I do some TTBB arranging. So TTBB means basically means all male choir, tenor, tenor, bass, bass. We have Marco in the stream. Hi Knut, nice to see you again. Well, nice to see you too, Marco. I hope that you'll find today's stream useful. So yeah, I was asked to arrange a song for TTBB. I was asked if I could arrange something that's in a kind of rock pop style. I was given a couple of suggestions and thought about what sort of song might be useful to look at, and also stuff like how do you decide who sings what? How do you decide who sings the melody? How do you decide what to take from the original track that's important? And yeah, basically, how do you work instrumental parts into choral parts? And this is not easy necessarily. A lot of this has to do with what you're going for, and I tend to aim for less instrumental imitation and more call and response, that sort of thing. That being said, I'm not opposed to instrumental imitation by any means, and I will look at this today. But yeah, so when you're arranging for all male choir or all female choir for that matter, there are a few considerations that are going to be different from SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Okay, so first of all, let me show you what song we're looking at. So the song we're looking at today is called Iris. And this is a song by alternative rock band Goo Goo Dolls, and it's their biggest hit. I'm not sure if Goo Goo Dolls have had a whole lot of hits other than this one, but it's definitely the biggest one they had. So let me just get my score up. So as usual, I've cheated. I have already transcribed. Now I will explain a bit about the transcription process, because this was a question I got, was about how do you choose what to keep, how do you choose what not to keep. And as I said, this is not necessarily easy. So essentially, there are different ways of working around this. I tend to do transcription, which means that I sit down, put on the music, listen to one phrase, or even just like half a phrase, and I write it down in notation. And this just comes with practice. I've done it loads over the years, and I've found that for me, that's the way I tend to get it down the easiest. So I find, in fact, let me I'll write this down, how I tend to work it. So transcription. I'll show you this afterwards. I'm streaming, so suddenly my ability to write just goes out the window. So first I transcribe. So I listen to the song loads and I write out important bits. Now I always start with melody and bass line. Melody and bass line very often will be key parts of the song that you'll want to keep. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that you'll want to keep them exactly as they are. And in fact, when we look at the score, you'll see that the melody I've written out is not always the prettiest in notation. So let's go back a little bit. Notice, I'll just zoom in a bit. You can see this is just the first verse. Notice how this melody becomes very syncopated. It's not so. This song Iris is a bit special in that it changes between 4/4 and 6/8, but always kind of maintains roughly the same quarter note length, which I've kind of tried to illustrate by writing in this metric modulation sign here. And again, that is just that is ear training. That is having listened to loads of music very actively, having learned what the different intervals sound like, having done rhythm training where you learn to figure out exactly where the rhythms sit in the beat. This is kind of a bit like doing It's a bit like doing piano practice, like doing singing practice, like doing maths exercises, like, you know, doing squats or repetitions when you go to the gym. Like, it's just practice. And I'm not sure if there's any other way around it. But essentially, as you do more and more, whether you write it down like I do, or you just do it by listening and imitating, which I also do. Listen to one phrase, imitate. Okay, I was perhaps a little bit late on one note. Okay, listen again. Da 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 da. Like this phrase. And I give up forever to touch you, 'cause I know that you feel me somehow. This is a very syncopated phrase, and I probably had to listen to it 5 times before I got all of this exactly in the right spot. So the end result can often be that it doesn't look very nice in notation, but I like to preserve that syncopated feel because it's very integral to the sound of pop music. Bass line, conversely, the polar opposite, just on the beats. Yeah, and in this case, you could definitely do something else with it, but the bass line of a song very often informs the style of the song. So in this case, just keeping it like this will make it sound like the original. Now, melody and bass, that's more or less obvious what to pick, because the melody you can usually hear quite clearly, the bass line you will usually hear fairly clearly. What about everything else? What about all the pling plongs in the background? What about the string parts? What about, you know, anything that has a pad function? There is no right answer for those. You've got to kind of spend some time listening to the song. What's the most memorable? What is it about the song that you remember? What is it that the song needs to sound like that song? And I usually bring up the example of the saxophone riff from Careless Whisper, because that saxophone line is more or less completely removed from the melody, from the bass line, from anything else. It's a standalone line without which the song becomes something else. And there is no right answer, as I said. But let's see. So the transcription part for me is about melody, bass, and let's call them memorable lines or riffs. If you're doing Smoke on the Water, you can't do it without doing da 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 da, because this is part of the song, even though it's never sung. If you see what I mean. Okay, let me get my little piece of paper up and I'll show you what I've written. Again, it's nothing fantastic exactly. Transcription, melody, bass, memorable lines, riff. Now, you don't have to do it in writing like I've done. You can also do it just listening to it, recording yourself, whatever you do to make sure that you get everything down in your brain, on paper, because this is going to help you when you then step into deciding how to transform this. And this is also important when it comes to choosing what to do with instrumental parts. And this, I think part of the reason why I chose this song is because it's a song that's basically, half of it is composed of completely instrumental interludes. So that makes it a really good candidate for figuring out what to do with those interludes. Let's get back to our score, and I'll show you my initial thoughts. Okay, so to start, this is basically from the original. There is, and again, I've written this on a piano stuff. This is not going to be part of the arrangement. This is just here for me to store ideas. You'll see I've written down the rough chord progression, and yeah, there's going to be loads of added notes here. They use, I think when I was reading about the song, it said that it's all played on guitar or, you know, guitar-based instruments. Again, I'm not a guitarist and I'm not particularly familiar with the different kinds of guitar instruments, but it's very guitar driven. And so they use something called, I think, open D tuning, where all the strings are tuned to D rather than using standard tuning, which means that they end up with a lot of chords with added notes. So like this first B minor chord might not be just a straight B minor, but it might be something like that or that. I usually will leave out these extensions when I'm doing my transcription, not because they're not important, they are, but because they're usually secondary to what the bass line is and what the topmost line is. So I've written in roughly what the topmost line is, and I just kind of wrote in the chord for myself, but I'm most likely not gonna just put this one-to-one onto voices. It's gonna have to go through some alterations. But this was just for me to be like, okay, it's got this, I'll play it so you can hear it. Like you can hear it has this descending motif happening. That is important because it comes back several times in the song. So I'll want to preserve that. I'll want to, put that into the arrangement somehow. Okay, so now I've just kept everything in here. I kept there's a little guitar like happening here, which I thought, oh, that's nice. I might be able to use that. Let's just put it in temporarily. We'll see. Just chord progressions, bass line, melody. There was nothing in there where I was like, this 100% has to go in. A lot of it is just dun, 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 dun. It's just, simple accompaniment stuff that you could potentially replicate exactly, jung, junga, junga, jung, junga, junga, jung, if you really want to do that. This is something you will find a lot in contemporary acapella. So like Deke Sharon, for instance, which is one of the big contemporary acapella arrangers, does this a lot. So they'll do, So for this one, it'll be, what was it? D, E minor, G. That's a perfectly valid way of doing it, and you can just do jung, jung, junga, junga, jung, or you can do 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 do, or la 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 la. And this is where you can be creative. There's no one right answer when it comes to creating instrumental imitation. So, but I will usually write down just the chord progression, and again, ear training. You spend a lot of time hearing what a major chord sounds like, you start to recognize it. You start to recognize what a minor chord sounds like. You start to recognize what a half diminished chord sounds like, or, an altered dominant that has a sharp 9 and a sharp 5. Like, this comes with practice, and it comes with doing it loads. I always recommend an application called Knut, which you can get, I think, on both Android and iOS. I'll write the name on my little sheet here. And I'll show it to you. Because ear training helps you in every facet of musicianship. It helps you in deciding what the chords are going to be. It helps you in hearing little details in the music. It helps with everything. So regardless of what you do, I'll just show you tenuto. And I also wrote in my terrible handwriting, harmony. I'm very much a fan of just using pop chord symbols to get that down and to be like, okay, so this is the chord progression. If you play the guitar or the piano, it also means that you can just do that. Think about what do you think will sound nice. You can work it out, and I indeed do work it out just from looking at what I need in the chord and just distributing it according to what fits best range-wise. Or you can be a bit more creative, you can add counter melodies. Again, this is more of, that's the creative side, where there's not so much an easy answer, if you will. But knowing what the chord progression is, and being able to play it, being able to maybe, experiment a bit, already that's something I could put in the song if I want. And then of course there'll be considerations like, will it work in counterpoint, will it, again, that's more like advanced. Okay, I'm kind of going off talking about all sorts of extra stuff here. Right, so we are doing TTB arranging. What does that mean for the arrangement? Well, what it means is that instead of writing for a mixed group, you're writing for a group that is going to be all male voices. or potentially, the top part in an all-male arrangement could be sung by an alto. That's not really the most important part. The important part is knowing, right, what's the range considerations, and how do I do this differently than if I were arranging it for SATB. Okay, so I've written a lot of this stuff out kind of temporarily. It's vital always when you do a cappella arranging, or indeed when you do any arranging, to make sure that you pick the right key. And this comes from choosing where is the melody going to sit in the best possible range at any given time. I immediately spotted, of course, that this song covers a very wide range, but it also sits in a pretty good range for male singers. It sits, in the verses, it goes down to a D. D, for most tenor singers, is going to be a low note below which they're going to struggle with projection. And you can tell in the original that these notes never come out particularly loud. And that's also, probably intentionally so, because it's written during the verses when it's supposed to be a bit down in volume and intensity. Whereas once you get into the choruses, it goes all the way boop, up to top A. And it's going to sound really intense and in your face, and it's going to do that because it's on the top A. Okay, so immediately I'll know, okay, well, I'll probably not want to move it up in key. Question is, do I want to move it slightly down in key? A is, if you have a tenor singer who can blast out an A and it's going to sound intense and, strong, and it kind of has to do in this kind of song, because this song gets very loud in the choruses, you'll want to make sure that you have that available to you. But let's say that I want to be a bit conservative about it, because maybe the tenor in my group isn't so strong at A's. But usually, in my experience anyway, if you have male singers who sing high, they will generally be able to sing a G. That note! They will usually be able to sing that loudly and intensely. So my thought is, okay, I could potentially put this down a tone because I want to preserve the vocal quality. And indeed, I think that is most pressing when you're choosing key, is what will happen to the melody. Will the melody stay in a good range? Will it stay in a range where it's going to sound good? A concern I have is that the verses can end up a little bit low. Like already at that D, a lot of lower singers will kind of, a lot of male singers will start to lose projection, and they'll have to change to their very twangy lower register, which might not be quite suitable for the sound. So honestly, I'm not sure if it's really worth putting this down. I could, but I could not. It's not quite obvious if it's really worth changing the key here. I think. Okay, so one consideration with all male choirs as opposed to mixed choirs is that you're going to be able to use, you're not going to have to worry so much about using your high singers high, in the sense that they're not going to be covering the altos, which is often a problem with mixed choir arrangements, is that the tenors are blasting out high notes and then the altos might have been written below them, and they're not really going to be able to project quite as much. That's less of a consideration with all male arrangements, and indeed with all female arrangements you have the same situation with altos singing really, really low, like singing down to their lowies, because they're not then going down into the tenor range and having tenors sing probably with more projection in a similar range, so you can write them lower. And even if your highest singer ends up singing it in a weak falsetto, that might still be okay in an all-male arrangement, because he's not then being covered by altos singing in the same range. I think I will probably keep it in D here, and assume that there'll be someone able to blast it out. I could also double it at the octave if that's a concern. I'll have to see what I choose to do. Okay, so oh, my choirs. Sorry, I need to just gather my thoughts. Right, instrumental sections. So, as I mentioned, Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls has a lot of instrumental breaks. And in fact, I'd say half, maybe even more than half of the song is all instrumental stuff. It's string orchestra, you've got guitar solos, you've got, loads of instrumental stuff. I don't think... So I often will just cut out instrumental parts. That's my easy solution for sorting out instrumental parts in a cappella arrangements, is I just remove all the instrumental parts and just keep the sung parts. And that is a solution you can go for. I think when over half the song consists of instrumental breaks, that's not going to work. You are, in fact, going to have to keep some of those. So I am going to have to keep some of these instrumental parts, and I'll show you different ways of arranging them as we go along. But there is, after the second chorus, there is an extremely long instrumental bit. Like you see, it just starts with some nice... And again, I didn't write anything in here, but it just starts with some legato chords on the strings. Then it has some staccato chords. And again, this is not something I'll translate directly onto voices. This is just something I wrote out quickly with a bass line and the topmost note in the strings. And then I just wrote super long guitar solo. Did not write this out because I don't intend to keep it. It's too long. It's not going to be as effective with a cappella voices, in my opinion. Some groups are really good at doing instrumental parts in their vocal arrangements, which is an admirable skill. And, if you feel like your group can do it, you can go for it. But what I see when I heard this, and I was like, oh, it's really fiddly, it's all instrumental, the song's already more than 4 minutes long. I think just to spare myself the headache, I can just remove this. I don't have to have this in my arrangement. I'll want to keep this... I'll want to keep that because it's a very memorable part of the song. But once I get past that, I might just immediately go to something quiet and then jump straight into chorus 3. I think, in general, when it comes to a cappella arranging, you can get away with taking away a lot of it. You can have much shorter arrangements. Some a cappella arrangements I've performed have been less than 2 minutes long. And it's almost like a psychological thing. When you're listening to a band playing something, it's often very kind of not necessarily introverted, but you'll have, the guitarist is kind of playing his thing, and he's kind of, in his world. And then you've got the piano player focusing here. You got the drummer kind of doing his thing. And what the singer is like, right, looking straight at the audience, and engaging very much. Now, of course, this doesn't apply, across the board. There'll be different groups that do different things. But in general, singers will be more kind of engaging with the audience. Now, imagine you have a group of 8 people all very actively engaging with the audience. You experience time kind of in a different way when you have entertainers engaging directly with you, rather than just listening to people that are kind of half engaging, but also, very much being on their instruments. I think psychologically then, you can get away with having a shorter arrangement, and it's not going to be felt as such. People are going to still feel like they're getting a full performance, even if that's not necessarily the case, if you see what I mean. So if you have a vocal arrangement that's 2.5 to 3 minutes long, that is usually enough. And I have found that with some of my arrangements, the longer ones tend to kind of just drag on. And honestly, it's not worth it. And it also means more work. And, arranging is already a lot of work, so why make more work for yourself than you have to? So yeah, it's it's not a one solution fits all. You could, spend a lot of time designing interesting instrumental breaks for your acapella singers. And if you find that you have the energy to, and you feel like you're able to do it in a creative way where it's not just the same thing happening over and over, but there's like new stuff happening and it's building in a way that feels good to sing and good to listen to, by all means go for it. If not, there's no shame in skipping the instrumental break. But I am going to show you how I deal with the instrumental breaks that do exist in this piece. Okay, so now I've talked a lot. In fact, I've talked for 25 minutes and not even arranged a single note. So we're off to a great start. As usual, you can ask me questions in the chat, particularly from the person who sent me the email. I encourage you to ask me if there's anything you're wondering about. I'm doing this for you. Ask me, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat, but I'm also going to get started doing the actual arrangement. So, I've done my transcription, I've listened to the song notes, I've written out the melody, the bass line, I've written in the chord symbols. I've not written in everything. I've made some creative calls already. I've decided that the instrumental break goes on for a really, really long time, and it's probably not going to translate really well onto voices, so I've decided to shorten it. Not decided exactly how it's going to transition from instrumental to chorus 3, but I've already made a couple of decisions. So okay, what do I do next? Well, for those of you who watch my show, you'll know that the next thing coming up is the dynamics graph. So, by having decided already that I'm going to cut out instrumental breaks, it means that I already have a clear idea of the structure of the song. Now, this song is very straightforward in the structure. It is just verse, chorus, instrumental break, or bridge, if you will, chorus, chorus. So it's very much a typical pop song structure. So let's see. Verse 1, chorus 1. It does, one thing is that the second verse is half as long as the first verse. So this is not unusual. Sometimes the first verse will kind of almost be like two verses, chorus, and then the second verse will just be half of the first one, so it'd be like one. Again, this is not very controversial. This happens in a lot of music. Bridge and 3 and 4. Okay, so from the original, we'll know that the biggest points are definitely the choruses. And indeed, that is something I'll reflect in my graph. I'll want the choruses to be forte. Probably want the bridge to go up to double forte. And then the last choruses to kind of go up and up and up as much as possible. Okay, first verse then is quiet. Okay, it goes up to chorus 1. Goes down again, verse 2. Goes up to chorus 2, up again for bridge. And then we'll have a huge drop, and then we'll have straight up to the high towards the end. Okay, so I have done a very simple makeshift dynamics graph, which I'm going to show you now. And hang on. It looks like this. Again, starts low, quiet, sorry, then loud, goes down again, up around chorus 2, and again, my handwriting's terrible, but it says kind of bridge, dips down at the end of bridge, and then goes up again in chorus 3 and 4. I'm not sure if I'll end, maybe having it go quiet again, which they do in the original, or I'll just have it end on a huge loud chord, boop, like I did with another of the arrangements I did. We'll see. Okay, but I have decided that the loudest parts are going to be probably the last choruses. And then my way of working is to start with the loudest parts, because that gives me something to work towards. So let us have a look. In the last chorus, if I'm choosing not to change the key, so because of the way the melody is structured in this song, and again, I got asked about how do you distribute melody? Well, it comes down to who can sing the melody the best at any point. And in this case, because the melody sits in a baritone range for the verse and in a high tenor range for the choruses, that call is kind of made for me. But I can, I can see if I can move it around a bit creatively, but I think 100% for the choruses, they have to stay in tenor 1, because you're not really going to have anyone harmonizing above that A. This is right at the top of the range. I mean, some people can sing higher than this, that's true. But I think unless you know for certain that your singer can definitely sing tenor C above there, and what sort of quality they'll sing it with, because it is, if they're singing it in a falsetto style, that can sound fine, but it might not carry very much. So these are all things that are best kind of sorted out by knowing your singers, knowing what your singers can and can't do, knowing what, was going to work. Okay, let's see here. So the easiest way to arrange, I think, is choral style harmony. Simple. Let me just think here now. So it'll be... It's something to that effect. I think it's probably okay to do this in choral style harmony, but the question is, do I want to have maybe a counter melody, something to that effect? Let's just do it in choral style harmony first, and I'll see what I do. So now, do I want to write the basses down or up? I think maybe down. So it'll be this. Actually, I learned about a new feature in the program, which I've not used much before. It is called re-input note pitches, which allows you to just put in notes on top of existing rhythms. Let's actually change this one. I always find it a bit stark when you have parallel moving fifths going into tritones. Not so much the other way around. That I usually find to sound fine. But this kind of motion, I don't know. I don't quite like it. It's a preference kind of thing. So, but I can just suspend it like so, and then there we go. And then doubling the top note. That's just the choral style harmony. Choral style harmony is good because it allows you to make sure the words come out. And yeah, it's first, I know it's high, but I still want it up there. Now, bass 1, they're going to be very high for them. Tenor 2s and tenor 1s are going to be in a pretty high range for them. So what I can do, now I've got these in close position up high. Maybe I'll put these up. I imagine having a moment... Oh, I actually skipped a chorus. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I've decided. So at the end of chorus 3, there is a smaller instrumental thing. And I think I'll want to maybe have the bass cut away there. This is a very typical trick to make it exciting, is to suddenly cut away the bass after you have a huge build. So I'll just arrange this here first, and I'll do it like I was saying before, where I'll just... Oops. what's the shortcut is Alt Shift N. I've not used this feature much. I don't know why. It's definitely going to be useful for me. There we go. So I'll just do this up high, like I mentioned, with the bass down. And I'll just do the whole thing in choral style harmonies. Now, I'll want to put in some counter melodies, and I'll show you how I'll go about doing this once I get into the next bit. But let me just arrange. Again, what I'm doing is I'm just looking at the chords, being like, okay, so I'm filling in from top down. I'll be like, okay, so I've got D at the top. Okay, just fill in. And accounting for stuff like if the chord is A major and there's a D at the top, then I'll probably want to not have the C sharp. Maybe switch it down to B to create that kind of suspended effect. It's just to avoid having a minor second right at the top. This should sound fine. It's probably going to be double F. And again, I'm setting it up so that I know now, okay, these guys are all at the top of the range. Basses are down low. That's going to be okay, I think, because there's nothing else happening in the bass. And you will find a lot of the time with the bass singers, they are going to be low in their range while it's loud, because there's nothing interfering with them down there. So even if they're not going to be able to shoot out their notes quite as strongly as the parts way at the top, they will still be audible to a certain extent. Once you get below this G, that is when a lot of male singers will lose their projection, and it's going to be harder to hear them, essentially. Okay, let's listen to this. Like, that sounds fine. That's a perfectly workable choral style harmony arrangement. They don't think that they'd understand. Okay. Now, this is a natural point where there will be some sort of counter melody. But I'll just write everything in choral style harmony first, because it's very easy to change things. This is what's great about working in Sibelius, is if you want to change things later, not a problem. Let's change my slurs to ties. There we go. And use this re-input notes feature again. In fact, let's suspend the third on this one as well. There we go. Now we do get parallel fourths at the top, but that's usually fine. Break. And again, the same thing. Now the melody is on a D, which will be the fourth on an A, and in that case, I will change the C sharp, which is the third, to the B, which is the second. I know this is really technical. I'm sorry. I could probably keep it on the third. Keep it on the third, but it's going to sound very crunchy. And put this up in the actual... There. Listen to this again, and I'll mute the piano actually, because that's not supposed to be in the arrangement. Off it goes. Okay. There we go. So that is a perfectly workable chorale style harmony arrangement. What I'll want is when we get to this stand, there's this awkward gap. We need to fill that with something. So let's see. Understand. So what I can do here is not have the backing parts. Just have the top part. Understand. So just have them on the 2/3 and the 2 on the on the 1 okay, on the second quaver, the third quaver, and the fourth quaver. It's in 6/8. I'm not quite sure always how to name the beats. In 4/4, it's easier. It's the 1E and the 2E and 3E and I do know those, but with 6/8, not so much. Okay. Understand, like so, and let's have an added ninth here. Okay, understand, and then with a breath. Sorry, understand. Again, this is just to create motion. Because there aren't any rhythm, drums or rhythm guitars, rhythm has to come entirely from the vocal parts. So whenever there's a gap, that's a good opportunity to put in rhythms in the backing parts. Let's put a little comma here to like imply to them that there has to be like a small gap. Now, that's a really simple way of having rhythms come in. Broken. Okay, so I'm wondering if I should also fill the gaps here. I don't want the world to see me. I could potentially put, and again, because this is getting into the last part of the song, I might want to just make sure there's as much stuff happening as possible. And I think maybe even filling in C. Yeah, okay. Let's see. I'll do something similar. I'll have these not sing that C, but I'll do this arpeggio effect, where the bass do their C. Again, C is a very audible sound because of the S's are like a notorious choral sound. You hear them everywhere. Okay, I've got a comment from Tadabi Simba. The lyrics match my thoughts when it comes to theory. I just don't think... Yeah, I'm sorry. It does, unfortunately, get a little bit technical when I'm talking about the arranging techniques I use. A lot of the time, it comes with just looking at... and again, if you join the stream a bit later, when I start doing my arrangements, the first thing I do is I listen to the song a lot and I write down the melody. And again, this just comes from having worked with notation a lot, and so I'm able to work out how to notate it, and then I work out what the chords are. And again, this is also something that comes from doing ear training, where you can hear roughly what the quality of the chords are. You can work them out using the piano, and so I do what I call filling in the chord from the top down. So and again, I do it really quickly. I'm sorry if it's going by really quickly, but I'll be like, for the first note here, that's an A, but I know that the chord is B minor. And I know then, okay, the A is the 7th on a B chord. So B, 3rd, 5th, 7th. And I know then, okay, well, I'll be missing, I have 4 parts to work with. I have 2 tenor parts and 2 bass parts, and I'll want to make sure I cover the most important parts of that chord, preferably all of them. And so I'll know, okay, well, the B goes in the bass, the A goes at the top. That leaves 2 notes, which I haven't accounted for, which is the 3rd and the 5th. And so I just fill in from top down. I'll be, okay, well, the top note's an A. The next harmony note down is the 5th. I'll just have that in the second half part, and then next harmony note down is that D, the third. Okay, so I put that in the next part, and then finally the B, which is the root. And again, I do it really quickly, and maybe it doesn't really explain that well what goes into my thought process, but it also comes from just having done it loads. I did a whole video on musicianship, which I would recommend that people check out if they're not really sure how to work out what notes to use. I'll share this video in the chat. If you are wondering, like, how do I know what the chords are? How do I know what the notes are? Then you would probably benefit from doing a bit of musicianship practice. Oops. Let me see if I can share this. Can I get the link, please? Get your link. Musicianship. So I'll put it in the stream. That is a video that will tell you a lot about what goes into working out what chords are, working out how to find the notes. It comes with practice. And I was using the example from the start. It goes in the same vein as practicing the piano, practicing singing technique, going to the gym and doing your reps there, going swimming to practice your strokes. It's something you just have to keep doing over and over, and in the correct way, if you will. Not don't go to the gym and lift with your back or whatever. But yeah, there's all sorts of apps and stuff you can use. So I talk about that a lot in my musicianship video, because it allows me to arrange a song very, very quickly, like I'm doing right now. Okay. I also realized that I haven't actually put down what song I'm working on. Let me just put the song in the chat so you can check it out. Again, this is a super, super famous song. So let's just get it in here. There we go. Okay, back to my arrangement. Yeah, so I was here. So right now, and I mentioned this in my previous arrangement as well, you have every gap is an opportunity for counter melody. And the more and a counter melody can also just be a rhythmical thing. Don't think of every counter melody as having to have some sort of contrapuntal quality. It doesn't. It can just be literally, don't want the world to see me. It could just be that, just in the same in the same notes, something rhythmical. What it does, it creates movement. It can build tension, and it makes sure that the intensity stays up. The second there's a long gap, that has a tendency to lower the energy, which is why I here kind of want to fill in every single gap as much as I can. So don't want the world to see, because I don't. That's what I want to go for. To see. So I'm doing suspensions where I'm carrying over these notes. Let's see. Two. Maybe just to make sure I have something happening on this beat. Let's try this. Okay, this is the right idea, but it's clashing. So it's clashing with that. Can't have that. So I'm going to have to not suspend this. And then I will do it like this. To C, C, C. C, because I don't. Put a little accent on these. Make sure that they're emphasized, like so. And I'm putting in breaths as well. So I'm putting in a breath for the spaces after the C, and for the others before their C. This is C. Like so. So this will create a little arpeggiated effect. It will create some motion. There we go. Now I'm kind of okay with this. There being a small gap there as well. Let's just put little tenuto marks on these to make them more like emphasized. And here we have the same situation, and then I can, I can add some motion here. Everything meant to be broken. I just want to oops. I want to keep the top line. I'm just adding in little extra bits in the other parts. So I want to broken. To be. Now this one's slightly easier because I can hold these. To be broken. Be broken. Okay. Broken. Be broken. I just want you. Yeah, I'll go with that. So what I'm doing essentially is I'm having each of them do their syllable on a different beat. Be broken. And they all land on the second beat in the bar here. Broken, I just want you to know. Broken. I am a little bit concerned about where... Oh, actually, this is not right. I did this wrong. I'm a little concerned about where they should breathe with this. This might be fine. I'm going to have a look at it in a second. What I want is this. Like so. Put the words in. Broken. Sorry, I keep hitting my microphone. I apologize. I really need something to attach my microphone to the table because the way it's standing on like a stand and it's right next to my hand, and in order to get it close enough to my mouth, it has to be like quite close, but then my hand will like hit it. So I'm hoping you're not getting terrible sound quality because of that. Same thing with the accents. So now, MIDI voices don't really present this effect as well as it's going to be with actual singers. But the effect you have is when everything's made to be broken, I just want. So you have an arpeggio effect. Yeah, I'm short of getting in actual singers to sing this live. It's not really going to translate as well. Maybe I'll do a recording of this later, and then people will be able to hear what it sounds like. I mean, it'll be easy for me because it's all male voice parts, which means I can record them myself. Okay, so now this instrumental break. This is going to be easy to get in here. To who I am, who I am, who I am, and I. It'll be that. So I'll get rid of this. who I am, who I am, who I am. It'll be that. Just G. And we'll just go up in inversions as we go. So it'll be, oops. So something that'll be, it'll be that, I think. So just have something moving right at the top of the chord. So, and I'll have the top notes coming in here. So this will just be the three of those parts. Who I am. I will put in some dynamics in a minute. Who I am. Who I am. Because this will kind of, this begs for suddenly being quiet. Sub P. So subito piano. There. Just filling it in, like so. This goes back to FF here. So what we'll do is, well, do I want to keep? No, I'll cut out the bass here. It's going to sound a bit weird without the bass, because if you take out the bass here, because of the fact that this is an A on top of a B minor chord, taking out the bass means that it just sounds like a major chord, which is not the harmony that's used in the song. So I'm definitely going to have to so I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, I don't think I'll want to cut out the bass here, but I can have it up an octave. And that also means that it's going to be a lot more piercing. And then I can have it drop down in the second phrase. Because then you do get this effect of suddenly the bass is gone. I mean, the bass isn't gone, it's just high. But that also means that it doesn't have that bass effect. And then in the second phrase, it goes in here. So it does have, I don't know if the original does this, but it has the effect of like, choop, the bass goes away, and then boom, it's back. At least go up an octave here, because it's going to be really hard to do this jump otherwise. Who I am, who I am, who I am, don't. Don't. It's there. Let's just fill this in. Oops. Like so. And this will be with the top. No doubled. There. Boop. This will be piano, and then they keep just growing the whole way through, like so. Maybe a slight decrescendo here. Let's listen to this. And then this can be short, like so. Get a chance for the reverb to gather, to go through the room, and then come in on the second phrase with probably a similar arrangement to what we just did. And again, it just creates something different. It creates more of like a big effect. Let's do this again. And yeah, and then I'll probably want to keep this again. I'll just copy it verbatim from here. Just fix the spacing. Yeah. Yeah, so now they're going down. La la la. That's just an octave. That's going to be manageable. And I think a lot of bass singers are also used to doing those kinds of intervals. I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am. I think, so usually when you have these kind of repetitions happening, it's usually enough to do it 3 times in total. This comes from ancient Greece, and it's called rhetoric. I mean, there's more to rhetoric than just doing things 3 times, but they had this idea that if you say something and you really want people to remember it, you do it 3 times. And a lot of pop music does prefer to do things 4 times, but you can often get away with 3. The 4th one, it's not bad, but it's a little bit superfluous. So take away that one. Maybe just hold that. Maybe, gradually getting quieter, something like that. Okay. You know who Oops. Press the voice function instead. Who I am. Who I am. I just want. Okay. Do. Yeah. And then it's just the same thing again. Just use commissary to with text. Who I am. With tenuto marks. And tenuto marks kind of just mean kind of weight these a bit more. At least in some context, it kind of depends. You'll find that people use them in various different contexts. I tend to just mean them as give us a bit more weight. And then the last one, maybe have everyone land on the beat here instead, just to help with timing. I Oops, that came in the wrong spot. There we go. Ellipses, and I'm imagining that this will be MP getting quieter with a stop sign on it. Just have them like fade out on that. And again, this is kind of in a range where this is, yeah, this should be fine. It's not too high. Have a decrescendo here. Get rid of this last bar. There we go. So now the effect is going to be, let's go from here. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a nice way to end the song. Okay, now that kind of takes care of the chorus. So now I've decided, okay, so what's the strongest part? Where are we going? Now the question is, how do we get there? So I'll know that this is gonna be basically the loudest, most intense part of the song. But I've arranged it in a way so that it's high in everyone's range. It's gonna ring out no matter what. Even this will ring out a lot more than probably P will laugh for, but it's going to be very intense and loud. Okay, so let's refer back to my dynamics graph. Now, for those who joined late, let me show you what the dynamics graph looks like. So I always do these when I arrange. I'll decide, okay, this is the highest part, it's double F. The loudest part, sorry, not the highest necessarily, but usually. And this is the quietest, and then you've got time on the other side. Verse 1, chorus 1, etc. And essentially I've done this part right at the end. So that is about as loud as it's going to get. Now everything else has to be relative to this, and this will help if you arrange in this way, where you know what the loudest and highest bit is going to be. It's going to be a lot easier to scale back from there. It's a lot harder if you find that you've blown your load too early and you don't know how to scale up. You can, of course, ask your singers to sing loudly, but a lot of it also comes down to range. And when you've got tenors screeching out top A's, that is gonna most likely be very audible. If you have really good singers with extremely good, singing technique and control of their dynamics, then of course that's fine. But a lot of the time, it's going to be good singers with fair control, but that will definitely benefit from having an arrangement that works with how the voice kind of wants things to go. The voice kind of naturally gets a bit louder as you get higher in range, and naturally gets a bit quieter as you get lower in range. Now, of course, with training, you can work on this to where you can sing high and quiet and low and strong, but it does require a lot of work, even by someone who knows how to do it. So if you want to make things easier for yourself and for your singers, if you want to, not have to spend loads of extra hours of rehearsal time making sure that the quiet and high bits actually are quiet and high, then you can arrange it so that you don't ever run into this situation. It's one thing is that it's kind of kind to the singers, but also it saves time. You've already set it up so that when it's high, it is loud. And so the singers don't have to fight against their natural urge to blast it out full force. If that's a useful tip for you. Okay, let's get back to our arrangement. Whoop. So, right. Let us so now maybe I should do the other chorus here just to show how I can then have a chorus, because it still is pretty loud and high. What I can do is, instead of having everyone do the words here, I can have maybe just like two of them do the words and the others doing R's. That's gonna lower the intensity. So for instance, having the bass and the basses, both of them, going like just that's the tenors, and I'm thinking out loud. Okay, here's what I'll do. I think it's okay here to put the basses in octaves, perhaps. Actually, maybe I'll do them in open fifths, actually. Can I get everything code? Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. So I am, and again, this is it goes a little bit against what I just said, because I'm going to have the basses low and loud, but I think it's going to be okay here, and I'll show you why. I want these to kind of have this strong open fifths thing at the bottom, low R's, like. This is because I want it to be not quite as intense as the later choruses. I want there to be somewhere further up to go. So what I'm doing here is I'm having them a bit lower and not quite as strong. And then I'm having the second tenor do harmonies, but not quite as high as before. Now I'm just covering the notes. So the theory here is I am looking at what is missing in the chord and I'm adding it in. So here, again, I've got the situation where I've got the A at the top, which is not really a normal note in B minor. That's an added note. I have the B in the bass, and now I'm adding the fifth on top. So I get this open fifths effect at the bottom, which is very common in pop music. And then I'm missing the third, which is the B, no, the D, sorry. And so that has to go, basically, in tenor 2 to make sure that all the notes in the chord are covered. Here I'm suspending, so I don't end up with this kind of motion, because I don't like it. I think it sounds a bit weak. So instead I suspend the third of the A chord. So that you get this motion. You've heard this loads of times over the course of your life, I'm sure. Then I suspend it so that I'm resolving it on that F sharp instead. There we go. And now the E here is not part of the G chord, but that's a common added note. That's the sixth step. That's a very common note to have in a major chord. So it's not going to sound weird. These are the tenor parts. And they are going to be... This is going to be off the octave. F. They're going to be strong. Not double F. I'm saving that. But they're going to be strong. This is the chorus. And I decided earlier that I want the chorus to be strong. Now these guys are just going to do R's. Oops. They're not going to sing semicolon. R. I tend to write, whenever I do something that's not words, I tend to write them in italics, just because I think it kind of looks nice. You don't have to, like so. And they're just doing this over and over. Now I might put in some counter melody here, we'll see. But first of all, I just wanted to get this in like so. See, this looks a bit naff. Let me sort this out. Oops. Shorten this for me, please. There. I'm always working on how to make my slurs look as nice. I don't think there's any real consensus about whether you make it all the way to the end or if you just make it to the end of whatever is the last tied note. I think it just comes down to what looks nicest on the page. Okay, let's continue. So now I'm just going to arrange out the tenor parts here. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking at what is missing from the chord and how do I, where should I put it? That'll be, oops. Should use this function again, the re-input notes. I'm always learning new things in Sibelius. It's a program where you will discover new things as you work on it for years and years. Which it's fun. I mean, it's the sort of stuff that you wish you'd have you wish you'd have found earlier. This should actually be. They'd understand. So we get this nice suspended note. There. No. I just did the thing that I said not to do. Oops. Did I suspend this note? Yeah, I did. No, I can't because this is... Okay, it's gonna sound better if I don't suspend here. Yeah, so the thing about... So sometimes I'm following the harmony exactly, sometimes I'm not. And again, it just kind of comes with what is the melody and how do what kind of acceptable replaceable notes do I have? So in the case of this song here, I've got the melody on a D, and the harmony is A major. Now I know from years and years of doing music that that can lead to this happening, which might be exactly what you're going for, but it is going to be very it's going to be quite dissonant at the top. You'll have this effect, which can sound perfectly fine depending on context, but for this kind of song, which is very much a standard non-dissonant pop song, I think it's not necessarily going to sound the best. And so I decide against having a dissonant interval at the top, and rather put in an acceptable, that's not a really good term, a common replacement note. Okay, so let's just listen to this now, and you'll see that it does have some gaps, which I'll fill in a second. Yeah, so you see that there are these kind of awkward gaps here, but this is a perfect opportunity for the bassers who are just doing long R's to get something fun to do. See me, understand, kind of just doing the obvious, going through the obvious motions of having call and response. It could probably be fine without, but I think it just adds a bit more interest. It just makes things a little bit less static. To see me, to see me. And then I'm kind of, at this point, you know, I'm just kind of pulling stuff out of my imagination here, and then I decide, right, is this going to work? And then how will I make it work? And so I'm just, you know, having listened to pop music loads over the years, and I should sing the bit, and I don't want the world to see me, to see me. Yeah, it's a very natural point to put some counter melody, and in this case, it's just rhythmical. Just see me, and C ends up on the beat, and then I'll probably just have them carry on into the next phrase. To see me, using this symbol, which is just under dash or whatever it's called, to create this little line here, which says to the singer, okay, carry this into the next, don't breathe. We have a breath here, so that should be fine. Cool, let's get this arranged. For those of you who've not joined me before, often when I do this, I will write everything on one staff, and I'll use something called the arrange function to move it onto several staves. So the way this is done, understand. The question is, okay, I think I want them to breathe on the one here. So I'll show you now. I'll write everything on this one staff. What I'm going for is understand. Just write everything in. Then I will cut it out using typical, you know, the normal Mac and Windows shortcuts. You can also find it at home, cut, boom, Control X. Then I select the staves I want to spread it out on, and I use something called the arrange function, which you find in the note input tab. It's all the way over here, arrange. Press that, and it just spreads it out. And if you've matched the number of notes to the number of staves, then this will usually take care of itself. Sometimes you'll have to move things around if you're crossing parts, which is something that you can often end up doing, especially in TTBB or SSAA arrangements. Then you'll have to do that afterwards, because this one just kind of does it, you know, mechanically without thinking about stuff like voice leading necessarily. But it just saves time. I forgot to make sure these. Yeah. To be broken. And then I want them all to sing the last phrase, because that's going to sound a little bit nicer. T broken. Okay, so now I get to think about the cadence of the language. Everything made me to be broken, just want you to be broken, just want you to know. Okay, I'll do it like that. To be broken, just want. And then it'll be what this is. And so I'll just copy that in like this and use this re-input pitches again. Oops. I can use this function. It seems quite useful because I do often end up copying just from another staff onto a new one and then just re-inputting new notes using the same rhythm. And this re-input pitches function achieves that without me having to manually move between the notes. There we go. I never actually saw the film that this was written for, City of Angels. It's got Nicolas Cage in it, so I should probably see it because Nicolas Cage is a funny man. Okay. There we go. Just arrange that out. Okay. Let's just listen to this. Here I can kind of make it sound a bit less janky. Okay, just one. I can just have these guys on the beats. Just make it sound a little less janky, just in the change there. And then I'll have to work out some sort of connection into the interlude here. Let's not worry about that. I want to do the verses now. In fact, maybe we should do the very first one because that is going to be most likely the very quietest one. Now, the tenor one gets a lot of action already. The tenor one gets all the choruses. And that's not fun. You don't want to have the tenor one singing the melody the whole time. You need to needs to get off his high horse already and let some other people sing something. So let's give someone else the melody. I kind of like, especially when you have quiet parts of the song, to give it to the lowest singer, because the lowest singer tends to, they get to do the bass line, but very often that kind of ends up being their job for the whole arrangement, and you want to give them something else to do. Now, the question is, do I do this for verse 1 or for verse 2? I guess it'll be... So now I have to think a little bit because I want... So... You know what? Let's do it that way. Let's have bass 2 do the very first verse. Why not? And let's just have them do quiet ooze. And I'll do it. So now, not do them too high. And again, there's still this thing where you don't want to put the highest part too high because it's going to be really hard work for them to stay quiet. And this is, this is going to be required here. Now, that being said, how do I make it so that it sounds good? I can just do it very simply in root position. Just as it is. This might be fine. These will just be oohs in this case. Now I'm just doing triads. I'm just doing the chords. All I'm thinking about is where in the range do I want to put it? Do I want to have any kind of rhythm happening? What am I trying to achieve? What I'm trying to achieve is I just want it to kind of be quiet and nice and sweet and basically the opposite of the chorus, with a little bit of rhythmic interest there. This should all be very achievable simples. Okay, so this ends up sounding a little bit strange. No, I don't like that. I mean, I can always have bass 1 do. Okay, I've changed my mind. So the issue I'm having with this is that the added notes in the melody, the way I've arranged it now, doesn't really sound good. It sounds a bit like this B minor chord, for instance, because that A ends up sounding more like a major chord than a minor chord, and that bothers me. So I'm going to do a different thing. I'm going to have the bass 1 do the melody here. I'll have the bass 2 do the second melody, because I do actually want... But this one's so long as well. And again, now distributing the melody is often just a question of making sure that everyone's got something fun to do. I'm wondering if maybe saving the bass line... I'm not... I'm having a hard time deciding. Saving the bass line for here might actually benefit, because I think I'm probably just going to have this be exactly the same as here. I don't see any reason to complicate things and do anything differently. So I'm just going to copy this straight in verbatim. It's fine to repeat stuff. If you're happy with the way something's arranged, just repeat it. Repeating something once is fine. Doing it more than once can often end up being a little bit more boring. But now it's just that arrangement happens twice, and then the last times it's different. So that, to me, is fine. That's just an octave. Let's do the second half here, because what I'm trying to decide is essentially, is it worth saving the bass entry for later? But here, I will definitely just have this. Oops. On the bass here. Like this. Look like this. But I'm just looking at the melody as well and trying to not cover too many of the same notes. Let's just listen to this as is. Yeah, so these notes are okay. I mean, the rhythms and the breaths are not. But I'm kind of happy having the tenor to do the melody here, and these guys all doing backing vocals. I'm also thinking if it's worth having like a high tenor bit here as well. Just like a nice high note, just kind of staying there. This carrying across. Now I need to be careful because here I end up with open fifths. So there we go. Now this will cover missing notes in the chord. This melody is kind of around the third in the E minor here, which means that will be covered. And then I can have the bass one stay on that B, that's a completely fine note to not have to blast out full fours. So let's do that. Then this is fine. You've got the chord covered, B minor. There we go. And then counter melody. This moment. Boost because it's still quiet. This moment. Is your life? Okay. Ooh. Is your life? Yeah, I'm just call and response. This is all this is. Oops. There's ooh. Use the arrange function. The little breath here. I'm always thinking of breaths. Never forget that they need to breathe somewhere. Ooh, ooh, is your life? This should sound quite nice. Yeah, a bit of oh, what's it called? When you have rhythms on top of other rhythms. In classical music, no, it's not hemiola, it's polyrhythms. It has some sort of polyrhythmic effect here. This maybe not all singers will be able to to do this justice, but I think it kind of doesn't matter. It's just the effect of this suspended note being resolved to the third. But then I also end up with this awkward thing here. Maybe it's a bit too much. Oh, and then same thing, and I want them all to do this one. Just basically what this is with new words. It's over. So now here, okay. So don't wanna. Turn on. Okay. See, let's do this in octaves. Because I'm having this tenor two farting around in the same area, and I think that it's going to lead to intonation issues because he's just sung an F natural, and then suddenly this guy is supposed to jump to like an F sharp, and I think it's going to lead to intonation issues. So I'm actually just going to have them in octaves here, like so. Okay, and let's down. And same up here. Breath. Down. This should be up high actually, so let's do. Don't wanna miss you tonight. There, now all notes are covered. Yeah. So this will sound very nice and sweet. Well, it should. If the singers are good, it should sound nice and sweet. I don't think the suspension is necessary here. Okay, so now I want to do this arpeggio thing, which I did earlier in the arranging process, where I have them each come in at a different time. So I want to do this on the 2-2-2 night. So let's have that. This is just going to be so. Tonight. 2-2-2 Okay, so we 2. 2-2. Tonight. One breath here. Tonight. And this guy is just jumping up an octave, so that's fine. Tonight. So each of these will be on a different beat with an accent to be like, this is your moment. Let's sing it out. Tonight. There were a lot of songs that were all about stuff happening tonight for a while, wasn't there? It's this one. There's some songs by Train that do the whole two-night thing. I think 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton has the two-night thing. There's Tonight. But maybe that's kind of a bit different. There's always stuff happening tonight. There's nothing happening tonight for me. It's just a normal night. Normal Corona Friday night. How exciting. Okay, so we need to have a crescendo here. Let's just have that run through the whole thing and just put the Fs on there. Oops, not double F. That's fine. We don't have to blast any eardrums just yet. Okay. And again, the MIDI doesn't really do this justice. This kind of effect is not, it doesn't translate because MIDI doesn't do that to night. It doesn't get that syllable change, which will create the effect. Okay, so that takes care of the last half of that verse, but I still do need to deal with the first half. And I think maybe it's okay to not do what I just did where I had that in the bass 2. Maybe I can save that for here. But it's also, there's a chance that it's gonna, not having the bass here might end up sounding a bit weak, so could just make it simple and have I could also change the chord progression. So the issue I was having earlier was that when we got to this A, it just sounded a bit funny. It didn't sound like a B minor chord. And I just didn't think it worked as well as I'd like it to. But I like the idea of having, like, I mean, I'm obviously trying to create little moments, moments for them to taste. Little moments for all the singers by having these counter melodies. So no one's stuck just singing oh for the whole song. There's always a moment, there's always a counter melody, there's always something. But I like the idea of every member getting a part of the melody as well. It feels a lot more fun when you get to kind of change roles a bit and do different parts. So my question now is, do I give this to bass 2 or bass 1? It's going to be one of them. I'm going to try and arrange it for bass 1. No, for bass 2, sorry. Because I think when we get to verse 2, I think that is one that I would rather give to bass 1. And then this bit obviously has to be in unison, or in block harmonies. I think just this way, you have bits of the melody in the verses go to each of the different sections. You have bits of the melody go to bass 2, you have a bit of the melody go to bass 1, you have a bit of the melody go to tenor 2, and of course tenor 1 gets every chorus. So the tenor 1 has already been kind of spoiled with the chorus every time. They get to do the fun high parts. With distributing parts, I tend to take the stance of I want to make sure that everyone gets something fun. I want to make sure that everyone gets to sing melody. Everyone gets a chance to do that because everyone at some point should also, be accompanying. This is the nature of acapella music. So at some point you will be accompanying other parts. So what I might do to avoid the issue I had with this particular bar is I might just reharmonize it. So. Yeah, so I think I might actually simplify this. And this is just because I worry that it sounds a little bit weak here. Even though this is the original chord progression, I am just a bit worried that it sounds a little bit weak. So not, weak in general, but weak for this TTBB setup. So if I do this extremely simple ooh, and I think it's probably the right call to have simple oohs here, because stuff will be happening eventually. There will be fun movement and stuff happening on every beat and all that stuff. I'll do what I did first. And here I am changing the chords already. I'm suspending this note, and then it's the same thing again. So I mean, I'm obviously not going to use the piano part, but this is what's happening now. It's going to fit. It fits with the melody mostly. This is on an extra note, but that isn't so egregious. And it's just ooh. Ooh. Cut those out. I'll show it here. Cut. Select all the staves you want it on. Note input. Arrange. There. Sorted out for me. Now it's all in a nice range for all the singers. I do have to sort out my slurs because they're not always in the right spot. And then like so. I try to make the difference between ties and slurs super clear, because every time there are notes under a slur and there's no tie between them, there will be the singer that put their hand up. Are we supposed to carry across, or are we supposed to re-voice that note? Every single time, even if it's like this where it's ooh all the way, there will always be someone who, in very good faith, probably asks if they have to re-voice the note. I personally would never use a slur and then ask you to revoice. I would make it extremely clear that you're supposed to revoice, but not all arrangers do. So I suggest that you just make it extra clear by making sure that any notes under a slur that you want tied together, tie them together, because there's always going to be someone asking, are we supposed to tie these together, or are we supposed to revoice? It's without exception. So this is fine. This is, nothing special. Is it a bit dissonant, maybe? Now I'm just creating like a very, very simple accompanying line based on whatever the top note is, with a secondary dominant here. Now here, yes, it's true, you have a D here and a C sharp, so you get this effect. But I don't think that's a problem. It's usually not a problem as well if the third is at the top and the fourth is below, because it doesn't create that interval, nor does it create that interval. It just creates this interval, which is just a major seventh interval, which generally sounds fine. There we have just some simple ooze. There's nothing particularly controversial about what's happening here. It's just simple ooze following the harmony of the song. But let's have a listen to it anyway to just make sure that it does actually in fact sound fine. And now here I want to make sure that we change things up a little bit. So again, this is the thing about doing things 3 times. I've done 3 sets of ooze. Now I do something else. So let's have and I don't want to go home right now. Go home. Okay, so I'm thinking also ahead because I do actually kind of want to capture this in the tenors. Like that. That makes for a very nice little line. So let's have it in. There, and I'll use the re-input pitches feature again. And again, I'm just copying the rhythms and putting the missing notes in. So the question is, I think probably here I will use the minor. No. There. Spread them out. Let's listen to this. Now have these. Let's have tenor 2, bass 1, and bass 2 do something here. I want them to just do the chord, like so. And then I have this right now, right now. In fact, I don't even need to do the last note here. Right now. Like so. Right now. And then that carries over. Gonna go home right now. And that should just about be manageable quietly. Let's spread these out. Oops. There. And let's do this. Let's turn this into a dominant, like so, except with a G. This will be sort of a dominant with a 4th at the top. Let's do it now. This way they will match nicely with tenors and carry across, like so. Standard arrangement. Okay, now they're all MP. Let's keep the top tenor part P, but the others MP. Okay. So that's a bit strong. Maybe just keep it. I mean, it's fine. It's not super interesting. No. Just in third there. Sounds a bit classical. You could just keep it there. It doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to be an amazing transition. Okay, so instead I will have them all be here. There. I think I'm happy with this. Yeah. Okay, so that actually takes care of a lot of the song already. I've got the first verses covered and the choruses. Let's wait with the second verse because I want to talk a bit about the instrumental sections. So far, I've just been doing stuff that is sung in the original, but this song has a lot of instrumental parts. For instance, the intro. Now, how do we deal with this? How do we turn this into, something that can be sung? Well, a lot of the time you can do instrumental transcription. So you will cover essentially the most important instrumental parts directly onto voices. And this is completely fine. In this case, I think that's probably what I'll do. So I've kind of simplified things a lot by just writing in the topmost line of the backing parts. There's all sorts of stuff happening. There's a lot of guitars. There's a lot of stuff that, you probably don't need to put in here. It's just a very simple intro. Could even set this up. I could set this up so it doesn't look... So the bass isn't singing anything. I'm giving the bass... As the bass 2 is what I mean. So it looks like it's about to be a bass 2 solo kind of thing. And in fact, I can basically just copy what I wrote here out like so. It's obviously putting it into the actual range. And just copying it out to where I cover the most important parts. Let's see if I can do this in 3 parts. This isn't quite going to work. Don't necessarily have to do it exactly. Again, this is this thing where you can kind of change things around a bit, and you don't necessarily have to do it exactly as it is on the record if you find that it doesn't quite work for the instruments you have. So I might actually... It's going to get really low, and putting it up the octave... It's really high in the middle range! So I'm not sure if that's really gonna be the best solution. I think I might. I might just do it like that. And again, that is not exactly what's on the record. That is different. My idea here was I will use 3 parts only to set it up as though bass twos are about to do this huge like solo thing. And especially if you're a quartet, this is going to be like quite nice, where like you can make it seem like, oh, this is the bass twos moment, and he's doing his solo. But then if things develop and someone else takes over, and it develops over time. So what I've done is I've taken the same thing, but I've just put it up a bit. Like so. And I've some of these chords are going to be open. It's fine. It's not the worst. There. Let's get rid of the chord symbols because we don't need those. Let's do do's. I am very much a fan of do's. Nothing wrong with a good do. If I decide, okay, I'm not going to use the bass twos in the start. Just MF, maybe. Like, that's a perfectly acceptable intro to this song. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I'll even throw in a bit of a dominant there. Why not? Do, do. Oops. Do, 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 etc. So now what I've done, I've taken the rhythm. You've got this really syncopated rhythm that then suddenly changes into a completely different feel. I have changed the notes. And I think you can kind of do that. You can take just the rhythmic motif and use that, and that will still kind of carry a bit of the same sentiment. So you don't necessarily have to find a place for everything that's in the original in your acapella track. I mean, you can try, but a lot of the time it's not necessary. A lot of the time you can get away with changing things so you only keep the rhythmical material, you only keep the melodic material. Inevitably, it's going to become something else. You've changed the instrumentation, it will be different. It will, have a different character than the original. Okay, let's listen to how this works. Yeah, because you already have this strange thing it does where it changes into 6/8, and it will, and it is syncopated at the start. Syncopation plus goes into 6/8. Like, there's a lot of stuff that already makes this tricky as is. So I'm kind of keeping that, but also simplifying some of the elements that I don't think are quite as important. Can even to create some dynamic stuff there, and then goes up to the a bit again. Why not? Gets a bit of shape to it. There. Done. That's all I need. Cool. Interlude. It's basically the same material, but now there's a bass. Well, that makes my job easy because I have a bass. Who can sing this? Now I have kind of done bass here already. but I can change that. So I can stick it up in inversion. I like this. I think you've got this thing which you can use again. And so this is about as much as they use. Like so. Now I can get this note into my thing as well, because now I do have a bass, and I think the bass has an interesting thing happening. And it sounds like up the octave. Because it's going to be really loud. Yeah, this was what the bass line was in the original. I just took it. And then I do this in choral style harmonies. Let's actually use the new feature I learned about. I'm sticking them quite close together. There will be a fair bit of doubling here, but let's see how it works if I don't move things around too much. Like so. In this case, I will double the third. No, will I? Put G here. Okay, so I'll change. So just because everything gets scrunched quite a lot together because it's all male, I think I'll keep this guy on a D, and I'll have these guys. There we go. Now this is going to be very scrunchy. Like so. But it will create that effect, which is what I want. I did this wrong, actually. I don't need to have it go further down. There we go. So then I get that extra note there. And this bit. Let's see what this sounds like. Let's keep this all loud. Okay, this kind of interlude is kind of a candidate for being removed entirely, but I kind of think it's nice. Like, it's just this really, like, kind of nice thing. Why not keep it? We've already used it. Something similar to it. We have this funny 3/4 bar. Some extra notes here. Yeah, and that moves nicely into the next section. Okay, let's listen to this in context coming out of the chorus. So this does need some sort of it needs to be bridged somehow. Who I am, do. So it's something that kind of goes up. So I'm here. No, here. Something like that. Again, I'm just doing something extremely who I am. Do 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 do. Yeah, and then you get this fun effect of the changing time signature. Then have the tenors ones come in here. Who I am, who do. Oops. So now I do this bit first because this is in 3 parts. So I copy that out first. If I try to do all of them, you will end up with a situation where somebody is like, oh, you're trying to copy something that's in 4 parts onto 3 staves. So that means that one of them has to have an extra note, which is not which is not what I want. And so I copy them out like this. So this should be carried over. Yeah, I do need to find a place for these guys to breathe here, I've realized. I've not put in any breaths. Let's work out that in a minute. Through these. Okay, so now this should move nicely. Do I still want it to be loud? Yes, I do. This can go down into an MF, I think. And this should just be do 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 do. It's fine. All right, let's talk breaths because I do actually think this is something I need to. Do 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 do. So. Do. It's probably easiest to have the breath here. Because then they get to land on a beat, which makes things a little bit easier. Having breaths and then coming in on off beats, that is a recipe for rushing. There we go. So now they've got breaths. It'll sound like this. Cross. So I'm just fixing little bits of notation here, but yeah, I think that works quite nice, and that nicely is an adverb. Nice is an adjective. Anything here? Always account for breaths. There's too many goddamn choral composers who don't think about breaths. Like, stop it. Singers have to breathe. Okay. So here I can basically keep something very similar to before, but I can also be a bit creative. And you can't fight the tears that ain't coming. I can try here to introduce a little bit more of a contrapuntal thing happening. And you can. So let me see if I can develop something a bit contrapuntal. So something that goes in counterpoint, going in maybe 10 and 1. And you can't fight the tears, So this is, again, mostly rhythmical. And you can. Do, 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 do. I'm assuming that I'll basically have this bass line again, but yeah, okay. I'll work it out as I go along. So now, I kind of like the idea of having that D at the top there. And you can't find the tears for the more. For the moment of truth. Do, 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 for the moment of truth in your life, when everything feels like the moon. Something like that, where it's something a little bit high for the tenor. That works against the melody. Something like that. And then I have the other parts doing something a little simpler. So missing the third. Ooh. Ooh. So now I'm filling in gaps. This G chord will be missing the third, so I stick that in. Now it works nicely because you get this this thirds thing happening, or sixth. My favorite word in the universe. Sixths and ninth. The English language is sometimes tricky. Got a comment from Trevor Sangma. 3 thumbs up. Well, thank you, Trevor. I appreciate it. Okay, so now for counter melodies, I'm kind of playing it safe here, just staying on that D and then going up a little bit, and then it's sixth. But this is so let me just write in the words so you can see what my thinking is. And you, so essentially it's just the lyrics. Can't fight the tears, or the moment of truth in your eyes. Eyes. So something to that effect. When everything feels. Yeah. So I can use R's, I think. There we go. Now I'm doing something that might be a bit risky, but I'm essentially doing counter melodies in a bunch of parts at the same time. They're staying on the same note the whole time, so it's not the most egregious. It might sound a bit messy, but let's see. That ain't coming. That ain't coming. This could easily get a little bit messy, but I think I'm playing it rather safe with the harmony. And it means that there's a lot of stuff happening. See. Yeah, I think this will most likely be fine. But when everything feels when everything is it's just like the movies. Yeah, you bleed us. Yeah, because then tenor one's already in the position to get to their notes. Feels just like the movies. Movies. Yeah, you bleed. Let's get there, actually. When everything feels just like the movies. Oops. Carried over. Movies. Yeah, you bleed. And so on. So this is not super interesting counterpoint, but it's gonna just create some more stuff happening here and there. The words will do a lot of the work. It's gonna fit with the harmony. Let's fill in the gaps with the two other parts. So tenor 2 and bass 2 are just playing accompaniment at this point. Guys going down, which means stay on that. We'll just do octaves. Octaves. And in fact, they can even join this thing here. Just Again, just the simplest solution here. R's, they always sound good. They always sound fine. And let's have them harmonizing with the counter melody here. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to have these guys go down. There we go. Now that leads nicely to the T. I'm using a dominant, essentially, to make the tenor 2 part move to this F sharp, because I need them to be on the third. So that we're not losing out on the third in that chord. Let's just hear what that sounds like. Okay, so this becomes, where's this bad? That's kind of okay. Yeah, and this works. So what happens here is that the bass then goes onto the A, which is the dominant of D, if you know the theory. And I have tenor 2 here on the 7th and tenor 1 on the suspended 4th. So it's just all done aiming to get nicely to a D. And with the voice leading here, you know, just having tenor 2 going down in steps to that F sharp, which is an important note in D major, that is. Because the others are all on D or A. It's just about covering important notes. And I'll have them harmonizing with the counter melody as well here. So what did I do here before? I did this, I think. Oops. That's not right. There, and now choral style harmonies going into the next chorus. And you'll get a nice effect because that S will then create, if all the singers put that S on the second beat in this bar, this will create a rhythmic effect as well. And then let's have them all up in their high range here. This will be easy enough with the tenor 2 because we'll just have them in thirds. That always sounds good. Well, not always, but that usually sounds good. Movies. Yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. Maybe. I'm trying to think here. Could just do it. Maybe I'll just do it the predictable way. This is the predictable. There. This is just chorale style harmonies with what, like, one added note. It's not super complicated stuff. Probably want to have this going up to F. In fact, let's have it just go there. These are the ones I want, and I want them over here. Maybe have them emphasize the bleed. And now, yeah, you bleed. And now, transitioning into this chorus. you're alive, and I don't. You're alive, and I don't. Yeah. There we go. Adding in a little bit of motion. Nothing terribly controversial. Let's reset note spacing and. Well, what's this looking weird? Okay, I might have to sort that out afterwards. Sometimes Sibelius puts stuff kind of in the wrong place and you have to readjust, and yeah, it's not always doing the best job. Okay, but let's see here. Yeah, I mean this will work quite nicely. So yeah, I've covered instrumental sections, first couple of courses. Essentially, I've done everything now, but the instrumental break in the middle. Okay. So now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I quickly realized that more than half of this song is is instrumental, and for acapella voices, that might not be, the best. But we're going to have to capture some of it. So you can do so-called transcription arrangements, which means that you basically take what's there and just stick it right directly on voices, making whatever adjustments you need. And I think for something like this song, which has a very distinctive instrumental break, it has the like people remember that bit. It's the big dramatic bit with the strings. You can put that on voices, and I think I'll show you how we can go about doing this. So we're just done with this now. What happens after this chorus? Now it's been loud. It's been big and loud and up in the top of the range, and now you can take a moment here. I think it's fine to take a moment, and they do this in the original. They still have obviously. They still have the guitars doing their thing, but like you can just have basically with the bass. Maybe with a little bit of things happening here and there. Okay, let's see. This can easily just be done directly onto the voices. I could even just copy this verbatim actually. So get rid of the chord symbols, because these are singers, they do not need chord symbols. Unless you're asking them to improvise, in which case it might be. Okay. Just purely bare bones, this is what you'll have. Who I am. Maybe just have them so it happens 4 times, which means we can have them each with a little moment again. Ooh. Again, this is not, I'm not doing anything particularly tricky here, but it's nice kind of to have that little moment after they've had huge high bits to then give them a moment to breathe, because we're about to get into the da da. We're about to get into that bit, and so we need to give them a moment to breathe. No, not just the singers, the audience as well. Give the audience a moment to kind of catch their breath from all the drama. Who I am. There we go. So now the effect is that first we have 10 and 1 doing their bit. Maybe, actually, you know what? Let's have bass 2. Why not? Who I am. Not both of them, just one of them. So. No, not the tenor. And maybe we'll start our there. And then have 2 other parts do their bit. Back. And these guys will do the same thing. Who I am. Yeah, just creating motion, gradually adding. Oops, I cut them out. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to copy them. I made a mistake. Okay. I'm not grabbing everything. There we go. So gradually increasing in volume and adding more people into the Who I Am, a little counter thing that I thought up. And 1. And bass 2. The others. And then we'll have them higher up. Something like that. Okay. So. Da, 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 da. And it can just be does. Let's grab. Oops. That's not correct. There we go. Have them carry through there because they're going to do their da 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 da, and they're going to be loud. Even change these to R's here to give it a bit more. Maybe like this. You want to make sure you get that little nice effect at the top, so I'm going to do that. In fact, I'll put these exactly in the range I want them. Again, this is I'm changing things a bit. Obviously, I don't have a string orchestra here. I have voices, so I am thinking have them get higher as they get louder. Add in extra bits on the little counter thing that I made up. As we get here, there will be a natural increase in intensity. And then I will probably have to very intelligently move things around, gradually getting higher. And we'll see how long I choose to make this. I haven't quite decided yet. It's not Pines 2, it's Interlude 2. This sound it with. Why does this sound so weak? Oh yeah, it's because it's primary fourths, which is a little bit risky. In this case, I just want it first. There we go. So this, from the way I did, the piano part will kind of work nicely. Get the line in there, just show me. Okay. And I'm just going to use da 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 da. Because, well, if you're gonna demonstrate to someone what part that is, you will say it's the da 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 da. So why not just have them do da 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 da? Let's get the lyrics. The lyrics. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. This I will have to revoice this a bit. I don't want the tenors up on their high A just yet. They're just doubling the bass kind of up the octave. So keep them just on that G, and then the bass will have their little moment. Da, 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 da. There we go. Da, 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 da. And change this a bit. Like so. basically do the same thing twice. And then move up. I think because this I won't say it comes out of nowhere, but it does kind of like boom, there it is in the original. So to have that happen here is also fine. You do that twice, and then you already have the effect of this suddenly being a da 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 da, and then you can move them up after the second time. There. So that's what I'll do is I'll take the bass one part up the octave. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting them up in inversion. Then I will put these parts, the tenor and the tenor parts, there. So now, what's happening here? Oh yeah, okay, I see. So I wanted these guys up on that D. So that we have the top note doubled, and then you get the minor second happening at the top. Like so. Now these guys can be up the octave. That just because by the very nature of having put them up in inversion, they will kind of grow in intensity without me changing the dynamic. And then how do I... So now, this is where I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do, because I decided I was going to cut away the super long guitar solo as I wrote, because I don't think it's going to be as effective as an a cappella thing. I think I'd rather shorten it and go straight into the chorus, because you can see if I'm looking here, at this point in the song, looking at the time code here, we're at 2.5 minutes basically. We will be at 2.5 minutes at here. And we still have 2 choruses to go. And I kind of imagine that if we will kind of end up at 3, maybe 3 and a bit minute mark, which is enough. That's enough for an arrangement. So I'm wondering if I'm going to cut this obviously, but how? Before I do that, I noticed that I've not actually created a connection here. Okay. Who I am. Just doing the same thing again. Who I am. Okay, so that'll be the topmost part. So I want to make sure that they have a very easy bit of voice leading. What I'm looking at is oops. This is fine. I'm just thinking about top line. We're going to be moving into piano. Just have that. There we go. Now we get a nice don't have to do this then, because then they're seen in harmony with the topmost part. Oops. Get rid of that. So. Ooh, I am. Ooh. And this carries over. This is a dotted note. And decrescendo, because they're going into a quiet bit now. That should work nicely as a connection. Da da da. It can just be that. Da 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 da. Just a long high note. Da 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 da. Do I want something that descends and gets gradually quieter, maybe? Da 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 da. I mean, I could like gradually have them go. Probably be this again. So if I'm, it's risky. Sorry, I haven't planned this bit, which is why I'm like, what do I do here? I'm kind of trying to work out something that'll be like a nice. I'm wondering if, because it is like at this bit. So in the original, if you can't remember, essentially this creates a bit where the guitarist goes and does a piano solo, the strings go a bit wild, and at one point there's like a whoosh, and then things start kind of cutting down, 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 and then this chorus kind of comes bang in. So it's not a continuation of something loud that just happened. It's coming in loudly as a surprise. So I'm wondering if I can kind of get them and then have them suddenly appear up here. So if I have if I should have them moving around until they get to that chord. And then so that it comes in suddenly into high range after having been low. This is fine because then I'm talking about two parts here, tenor 2, bass 1, jumping up an octave. Jumping up an octave is not too bad, and it's going to create this sudden shift in timbre, which is going to create sudden intensity, and make it very like piercing in your face suddenly. So I think I want to kind of do a thing where I gradually get quieter, and then hit them in the face with a high chord. And I might there. Now this is I've already expected them to sing this high. Now the thing is I kind of want them to go all the way up into the which is a note that some tenors will be able to blast it out and it's going to sound great. Others maybe not, but I think I'll maybe go for an optional note here instead. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to go into 6/8 again. Get rid of all this. Actually, let's just to make sure I don't. Essentially, this bit is going to happen. It's there. This is going to be suddenly sub FF. Most likely, I'll have this happening in these two parts. Now, I'm always quite careful with having too many, having sections where there's like a huge gap, because what inevitably happens when singers stop singing for even a second is someone in the audience thinks the song is over and they start applauding. So I tend to avoid that because it always disrupts things a bit. So essentially what they'll be coming from is here. This will be really quite quiet. This is the low chord, and then suddenly up an octave. Boom. And what I want is let me work it out on the piano quickly. I need to make sure that this is over here. This does need to be there. But this does have to be a little while out. Okay. So I want top parts, essentially, I'll give them a choice. Sing the note that you're able to. If you can't sing the top note, sing the bottom note. And I'll have a bunch of descending chords below. That will fit. Yeah, you can't count on tenors being able to sing up to high B unless you know them for sure. So I'm going to give them an optional. And it's still going to be super loud. In fact, let's make it triple F, just to make absolutely sure. Like this is you're blasting this out. And then descending chords below. So. So how do I structure these? How long can I make this last? Okay, so for sure the first bit is going to be this. Like so. Can you even make it higher? Like... Okay. There we go. And then this will lead into this bar. So, and then drop down an octave. What's the last phrase they said? Yeah, and then it goes up to there. Have a decrescendo the whole time here. But all the time. There. La. Oh. Let's do the doublets. Oh. This will just be R's. Keep going quieter here to PP, and then suddenly loud. Everyone jumps up an octave. So, what I've done now, I've shortened the instrumental section. I've written in a new thing. Let's see, I've got some messages in my chat. Nick is saying hello, and then it says it's nice to see someone from Megalias here too. Okay, so you guys know each other. Well, I hope you're enjoying the stream. And yes, hi Nick, welcome. Right, so now I'm going to play what I did. I think this is going to sound quite good, but let's see. I don't think there'll be really... I mean, I can put a decrescendo here. It's limited how much of a decrescendo you can do at a tenor B, but the effect is that you want them to be all the way at the top, screeching out that note, and then down an octave, and then that's more manageable on an F. Okay, let's have a listen to this instrumental vocal section. I think this will be fine, and it kind of so you end up with something that achieves a similar effect where it gets really, really loud, it gets really high. If your tenor 1 is able to sing top B, then it gets a chance. Otherwise, that F sharp is also available, and it's going to sound fine. And again, I'm going to get rid of the piano stuff now. This is something that will be, different from vocal group to vocal group. But the idea is get them really high and loud, and then gradually lower and quieter to all the way here where they're fairly low. A little nice little thing here. And then bam, up an octave. These guys are up on their high range again. And we have the last couple of choruses. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to listen through the whole thing and see if I think it sounds like it's all working. Let's go back to the start. Oops. Let's go back to the start and see what it sounds like. seen already that I've forgotten to put in lyrics and slurs here, so let's get those in quickly. I think I should be able to carry this throughout the whole thing. Yeah, let's just go from the climax. This one's not carried the whole time. Okay, I think that works quite well. My only concern is, do I want to have like a choral at the end, maybe? I think chorit. Slightly slower. Ever so slightly. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with this, and I think, yeah, I think this is pretty good as it is, actually. I'll, yeah. I think, unless there's like any complaints, let's see. It sounds amazing. I would love to sing through. Oh, well, I mean, thank you, Marco and Nick. That's very kind of you. Okay, well, you know what? I think I'll call that arrangement there, and I will show you layout. I always think it's important to go over the layout because it's, a good arrangement's not really worth much if people can't really read it. So let's go out of. So I've been working in panorama mode the whole time. This is in the view, you find panorama. You also find it at the bottom here. I always work in panorama because you don't have to worry about layout. The second you go out of panorama mode, well, I mean, just like look at the mess. Like, it's not too bad, but like you have to worry a lot more about where everything is. It's easier to get lost on the page. Panorama mode, you don't have that problem. Okay, so I've not really filled in a lot of stuff here. I just kind of filled in inspired Goo Goo Dolls. I think this was the filmmaker for City of Angels and was credited probably with some lyrics or something. Title. I always get the title of the song on every page, so unhide. I'm not sure where you go to like hide and unhide. Yeah, hide and show here. Hide or show, and then you can choose if it's a part of score. They're sitting, it's shown. I always unhide this, and then I put the title on top of every page. I do it as a wildcard, but you can also just write it in, just normally. Cool. So I also always write my name and email address on top of all my sheet music because there's always a chance. Oops, fixed. For all mail. Sorry. I can't write and talk at the same time. Arranged for armor choir. That is my name and my email address right here. So I always write it on top of all my sheet music just because I know that even though you're not really supposed to, people tend to kind of singers tend to share their sheet music with each other, and they'll be like, oh, do you have an arrangement of this song? And then it inevitably gets passed around. It's almost impossible to avoid this. You can put that, you can go and be like, oh, don't photocopy my music, and put the do not photocopy symbol, like right here, like do not photocopy. It's not going to happen. People are going to photocopy your music. And I think it's better than that I instead write my name and stuff on top, so that, if on the off chance my music suddenly ends up in the hands of some choir in, I I don't know, Zimbabwe, and they need an arrangement. They can contact me because they're like, oh, this guy's really good at arranging. Let's contact him. It's just, I am going to be able to publish this. I checked this before I started arranging it, but I'll be seeing very little profits from any sales anyway. So I, should at least, get some exposure from having my name on the sheet music. Yeah, I think it's generally always a good idea to put your name on the music you arrange so that people can see who arranged it, and then they might want to contact you, search you up if they think the arrangement's good. They might not, but it's better to try. Okay, so now that looks a little better. Now the first thing I always do is, well, first of all, I need to decide if the staff size is right, and I think it is. I think things are a little scrunched together right now, but I always go to layout and use optimize staff spacing. And it selects the whole score. And what it does is it automatically moves staves so that there's enough space for everything. I also use appearance reset note spacing because it already fixed some of the layout problems by moving stuff so that the words fit. And honestly, if you've got the right staff size and you've done this, it will take care of most of your layout for you. Then you will have to go through and kind of do some small things. Like I, for instance, tend to always give a little bit extra. I don't do it here, I do it through the actual thing. I tend to just give a little bit of extra space on the first page. When I publish this, I'll put like the full copyright details there. And I think there's probably enough space here, so that's fine. This all fits. Looks fine. And just you're just going to check through and see that everything's fairly easy to read. Yeah, I think it kind of is. This, just pull that down a little bit. That's kind of okay still. Yeah. Invariably, you're going to miss something when you do this. It always happens to me. There's like a word that ends up being scrunched into another word. A line that ends up, like here, this is a very typical problem you get where the lines end up above rather than below the staff, which is where they should be. Stuff like this is gonna creep in. It's almost impossible to avoid. Again, I've got to do it here. It's not the worst if this happens, but it's a bit nicer if it doesn't. Maybe the later versions of Sibelius has this fixed and I don't have to worry about it, but with the one I use, let me just quickly go through and just see that I haven't missed any lines that, these are fine. You can read this. This looks a little bit, no, it's kind of okay. Could be worse. Essentially, you just want it to be, you don't want to have rests that have been scrunched on top of each other so you can't see them. It's just the kind of thing you want to avoid. This all looks fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing everything. The rhythms are correct. And then when it comes to the notation, of course, that's also a music theory thing, like knowing not to do stuff like cross over the invisible middle bar line, which is you should try to avoid. For instance, in this bar, see that these are divided because this is beat number 3. And it's good notation practice to make the 1 and the 3 visible in music that's in 4/4, because otherwise it can be quite tricky to know what is this on, what is this on, what is this on. But that, again, that's just kind of, just put this down slightly. That is just kind of music theory and, good notation practice. And it's, it's something you also get used to by doing it loads. With choral music, it's a bit weird because it's kind of, no, it's got this thing where there's like an extra page at the end. I hate this. I hate it when there's like so that means that I'm gonna have to like find a nice spot to break system so that we don't end up with that. Let's try and just a couple of places where it's a little bit scrunched, like here, there. Actually, that's too much. Yeah, I don't really like it when there's like a full page of nothing. I think it looks really naff. This isn't ideal either, actually. Leave that right here, and maybe here. I guess this isn't too bad, but I would like, ideally, I would want there to be full pages, if you know what I mean. It's not the worst. I mean, I've literally been handed scores where there's like one system per page. Like, it's even just thinking about it a little bit means that you're kind of a bit ahead in the game. I'm just gonna reduce the thing just a little bit here. Actually, that's too much. Let's try. Yeah, I might have to look over this. I just kind of want there to be enough space for everything. Like, this is okay. This doesn't look too bad, and yep. I think I'm probably going to say that the arrangement is there. So I've sorted out the layout. This now looks ready for rehearsal. So I'll be putting this this up for general sale. And I'll probably, it's all basically in my range, so I might just like record myself singing it, so you can listen to what the final song sounds like, and I'll put that out, probably in a few weeks' time. Okay, well, thank you very much to everyone for joining me. Today I worked for about 3.5 hours, and about half of that was just, well, I mean, I reckon about an hour of that was just me chatting. But Marco, thank you for sharing this this arranging session. No problem. I mean, I love arranging, and I love it if it's going to be useful for people seeing how I work, maybe get some inspiration for yourself, figure out if there's like things there's like some new tricks you can use, and so on and so forth. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me, and I shall see you probably next Friday for another arranging session.